Hello everyone, I am Neha Diman from First Verdict Media, and today with us we have a very successful and young entrepreneur who is trying his best to bring out a drastic change in the education system that our country is following. So here we have Mr. Rishabh Chopra, who is the founder and executive director of South Wales, the World School. Hello sir, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for being with us and giving us your precious time. I must tell you all that along with South Wales School, Mr. Rishabh Chopra is also handling two more business ventures. That is RC Nissan and Sugandha Apartments as their executive director. So, reading about you, I got very much fascinated. The way you work and everything about you actually inspired me. I want the same for my audience too. So please tell us something about you, your background, your family, your education, of course, and everything else that you want to tell us in brief.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I take you through my journey all throughout. First of all, I'd like to I'll shed some light on how I started this venture. My mother was a teacher. She used to teach in a school here in Solon right before she got married. And then she got married and had us, me and my sister, Sugandha. And she left the career for us. And she took care of us, nurtured us, and made us who we are. And I was a little boy, and I always wanted to do something for her that felt that I could reciprocate the gratitude she'd shown me. And what I did was I always thought that if I could get a school or an educational venture for her where she'd always be associated and love it with us together, so we'll have something common to do together. And that was where my journey started and how I thought about it. When I was when I was in my school, I've studied from the Lawrence School, Sanaa, majorly. I briefly have studied in St. Luke's, Solon as well. I've done about, went to Sonar in 2003 and I passed out in 2010. Right after I've done my engineering in civil engineering from JP University, and then further on to build my mindset and to get further with my education, I did my MBA in innovation and entrepreneurship from Sydney. That was an eye-opening experience for me. This is where I actually was able to shape my journey all throughout. So I basically made a whole project report on this school, that's South Wales, and I did a project survey on it, worked on it there, and took about 8 months and made it as a foolproof business plan before coming to Solon finally in 2016, October.
Okay, sir. Sir, I am very keen to know that how you manage it all. Actually, Rishabh Chopra is right now handling 3 different business ventures. So your schedule might be very hectic here. So I want to know that what are those tools and techniques that you use to keep your business organized?
I believe, so I have a personal motto, which I believe content and context are the most trickiest thing. And context is the kingdom where we work at, and the content is how we start working at it. So that's something of a foundation for me. So for me to be an entrepreneur and to run various businesses, I work as a partner with my father in 2, and I run one by myself. My wife has also joined me recently, and her name's Sniktha. Very glad to have her. I'm also very thankful to Mrs. Shashi Julka. She's my principal. I'd also want to point out she was one of those people who actually sent me to Sonar. She taught me, kept me, and took me through that journey. So what I actually do is, I'm an entrepreneur, so where I actually work at is, I use cloud computing to the max. I have a very, very fixed schedule for everything. I adapt, of course, but I have a very fixed schedule and I associate times, and my people are trained in a certain way. So I have a lot of reports that come through all businesses, and then they get funneled out as they reach me. For communication between our offices, I use separate softwares to keep myself in the loop of every decision making that's happening, so that I can be of service to anyone who's working along with us. So it's basically a lot of skeleton design of how communication takes place in all the businesses together, and then consolidating it into a successful output.
Okay, that's great, sir. So I want to know from you that how it all started. What was that first profession or business that you've put your feet in, and what were those resources, or I must say helping hands, that were available to you at that point of time?
Yeah. So this is a very simple question for me, and I always get this. My father, Mr. Rishabh Chopra, he is a genius, and he's a great businessman, he's a great father, he's a great mentor. So my father is my best friend, and he's almost everything for me. My parents are very close to me. So my dad is a very, he's a very successful businessman in his avenue. And so what happened, as soon as I came back from Sydney, I had a plan for my father, which was a business plan, and I went to him, put it across to him in a very professional fashion, and I told him how this should work and how this will work. He was very supportive, and he thought that I had a very clear vision of what I wanted through the school.
You're talking about Southwell.
About Southwell, yes. So that is the first venture that I put my feet into, and Southwell's my baby. And how we started with it is just after my father helped me through everything, all resources that I could actually imagine and I needed. My father was there to help me out, and it was great that he did. And we came through, and we are who we are now.
As per my knowledge, you've done your degree, your graduation in as a civil engineer, and then your MBA in entrepreneurship and innovation. Then what is that thing that gravitated you towards this field of education?
So, like I said, content is the king, and context is the kingdom. So how I use my entrepreneurship here is, I don't really run it like an educational venture. So first of all, I'd like to take you through my aim of actually getting up Southwell. My first logic is that everyone around it, whoever works there, who study there, who are associated with it, the parents, everyone needs to be at a very positive and a happy front. If all your stakeholders are happy, we're able to create something which is deeply appreciated. Secondly, the schools of a different format altogether. I did whatever I did because whatever tools that I was able to receive through education, for example, when I was in Sydney, I was able to learn how personal accounting, and how I was able to learn how businesses worked, how human resources allocated. I worked at a company called Bayer. It's a very big pharmaceutical company, German pharmaceutical company. So I learned a lot of allocation planning when I was working there. And what I was able to do was, I'm an eternal learner. So what I try and do is I try and take concepts which are being taught all around us, and we do a life skill management course at Southwell. So for every topic that is taught to the children, there is a life skill mapped to it. Like for example, if the teacher would teach Pythagoras theorem, she would tell them where would you use it later on in life. Like for example, Pythagoras theorem is used as a civil engineer when you're trying to make a staircase. So, and not many people really use it that way or associate it that way. So our education system, the biggest gap that we have here is how practical is the knowledge that we have and how much can we utilize it. And that's where the difference is there. So whatever I've learned in my life, experiences, education, I tend to use bits and pieces of it all around so that I can get a very positive front of all businesses, yes.
Sir, I would love to know something more about Southwell. What are its specializations, or what is its forte that make it different from the schools that we have currently?
So Southwell is a life skills based school. We have a very good student teacher ratio. We have one of the strongest growth records here. I've studied a lot of schools here. I've understood a lot. Though we're not competing with anyone, we aren't. I believe education as a system is an eternal thing, is for everyone, and that's it. That is why we share so much on social media, that what we do, so that a lot of people can get ideas and build through it. I have a bigger aim than only the children who are there in Southwell. So first of all, what we do there is all subjects are taught in a certain way where everyone is able to come and, for example, if they're learning sciences, so they'll have life skills mapped to it, like I explained to you. Then they'll have other activities would be secondary, like for example a presentation on some certain subject topic they're trying to learn. So what's that going to do is that's going to increase their engagement level, their confidence level with it. Then, for example, manners and etiquettes is a subject at Southwell separately. So where they're taught how to eat, what to eat, when to eat it, and how to clean up after yourself, how to go to the washroom, how to clean your hands. So all those little things that actually separate out children from the pack when they're out. And then they set an example out. For example, our children get to learn how Google Maps work. Our children get to learn how WordPress websites are made, so that they know that getting up a business in this running environment is not that difficult. So a lot more career focus is required. So we have a lot of parent partnerships. So all avenues parents come in, talk to the children. They teach children themselves as well what topics they like. Yes. So what happens? It's a stakeholder program where everyone is involved in the process, which makes it very, very different from where. Yes.
That's quite a great idea of yours. So I want to know that, were there any problems that you actually faced in your crucial years when you were in school that you felt, I want to change this? Were there any problems or any sort of things like that?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank all my teachers as well. They've been great, and I have a few teachers who are very special to my heart. I have a shooting coach who was at Sanar with me, Mr. Manish Giri. I've learned a lot from that man. And so in my early years, first of all, when I was in St. Luke's, great school, I hold the utmost regard for them. I had a little feeling where the number of kids in the class were a little more than what the teacher optimally wanted. Not that they didn't, but I feel generally the class schedules are for 40 minutes. And what I saw was these little processes, like for example, attendances. And if, I'm sure you've just finished your uni. So you sit in your class and a teacher comes in and they take your attendance. It takes about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on how many. So these were little things that I used to think about at that point of time, that you know what, they did take a little bit more time than they should. And all of that adds up in the end if you think about it. So these were the little things that I actually worked on. Like for example, we created a separate app for us. So we got a system where our attendances was with just a few seconds play. So a teacher could take it and upload it onto the system for the parents to look at, so they can get the information on their app. And it would take less than about, just 24 kids in the class, and it'll just take about 15, 20 seconds, and the attendance protocol is over. So I'm just decreasing and negating the negative time spaces and increasing more, engagement, teacher and the students. Yes.
They could get
more time, yes.
That's great, sir, of course. Sir, I think that you're very much fortunate to have your education from such prestigious institutions. But I personally think, in my opinion, that there are many more problems that we see around us in our country, in our state as well. That there are some children who are not even getting the minimum education, not even from the government schools. Of course, the children who are studying in your school would definitely be much more fortunate. But is there something like you want to work for such students, or or your school will work for them in future or anything like that, if you want to help them in any sort of way?
I'll tell you, that's a great question, and I believe that that's exactly what my motive was. So when I was building the school, so your vision has to be very, very, very specific, but on a bigger front. So, for example, we talk about, I just did not want to touch 300 kids' lives in 3 years. I wanted to touch more, so I wanted to do more. So, first of all, what my help towards the social thing here was that I did not alienate this just to the people of very, very fortunate families. So it is not really, really too expensive, right? For example, we tend to help children out maximizing whatever we can. Like, for example, from class 1, we've seen when parents are working, children go for tuitions and everything. And when they do go for these tuition classes, they go to these separate places. These places are not schools. So they're not, they're not passed through an educational, institution like a director of education, So they're not government passed institutions. I have nothing against them, but what I'm saying is we do not know where would the next one come up. So safety is one big problem. Secondly, a topic being taught 2 different ways or 3 different ways creates confusion. Different schools, different students come into the same place, the topics go different, and all of that happens. So what we tried to did was, the Southwell is the only school in Solon where there's no homework, and we get it done in school by the teachers who teach that particular topic themselves. And then all that data is transferred to the parents, or it's kept on the school premises on a cloud format. Once that's done, we're able to actually understand more about the children as well. We're able to keep a very definitive record for them, and we also have a big trend analysis for them as how much is their progress is going. Like now, getting back to your question, how would the other kids, like for example in a government school, would help out? So we have a little format that we're working on right now, which is a peer-to-peer teaching process. So where we have our kids get involved with kids who are not from the similar backgrounds, and they tend to help them out by teaching those topics. So peer-to-peer learning is a very, very effective method, and it really helps. So we're working on a format where we can get them into a format where it's a recurring process, and it's not just done as a CSR operation once. We're getting a format where we can get them involved more often, like for example once a week or twice a month, something like that, so that it becomes something that is recurring, and it becomes a part of our core value, that much beyond my years on this planet, that something keeps going and growing. That's my motto with everything, mostly.
And that's of course very great idea of yours. So I want to know, as you've said in your answer, that you also update your students about the technology. So I want to know that, don't you think that technology is somehow surpassing the conventional methods of education that we used to do earlier? Do you think that?
Yeah, technology is really, really changing everything. But as much as you said, exactly where you said, how do I do what I do in terms of 3 businesses or 4, I'd like to give a shout out to someone who I feel is much like, he's an inspiration to me. His name is Mr. Vishal Anand. If you search his profile or learn a little bit more about him, he has immense amount of more ventures than we can actually think on paper. And what actually even Vishal would be able to, yeah, so even he'll be able to come up with, technology is a very, very vast area, but it does point out to a lot of tricks in the book that can be used as tools to actually move forward. South Wales as a school, I sometimes call it a business because it's run like a corporate event where everything is based on efficiency, because children are most important for us. So whatever time we have, we need to make it count. So technology helps us get there. I believe technology is the only answer to everyone's problems and to increase efficiency in terms of, for example, I have a little platform for, we talk about government schools. that they have very effective teachers. My mother-in-law is a teacher at the same, yeah, so she is in the system as well. I believe they have the best of infrastructure and they have everything available to them. I believe the efficiency could go through and it could go touch the, it could go really up if they were able to get the tools up for teaching aids and training of these teachers. Like, so what actually is the difference between a private school and a government school is that there are a lot of trainings that happen for teachers, tech-based. Like, for example, somebody's been teaching from 2000, right, let's say 2000. They were teaching this particular subject, let's say science, on a CBSE platform. So they had a CBSE science thing. And the CBSE kept updating their books a little bit, and it kept moving like the times of. So we're 2000 where we are today. From 2000 to where we are today, times have changed, right? The tech has changed tremendously. So if you look through the computer books in the children's classes, they haven't upgraded as much as you think we expect them to. Like, I wanted to, for example, get up a book platform for computers for my children, where I wanted to see, did they have the right tools to learn? Like, for example, just knowing Excel could be a very effective tool in this day, but it's not taught at that high level, and it's done with a lot of, like, for example, it's not, comprehensively done. So I believe if the right innovation manager exists in an organization who challenges. And I don't know if I could bring this forward. Do you know what a devil's advocate is? A devil's advocate is who actually says no whenever an idea comes up. Like, for example, a conventional idea is going to flow through your organization, be it a school or anything. A devil's advocate would tend to put stops to you, saying no, it wouldn't work, or yes, it would work, and come up with a lot of different reasons that it might and might not work. So that what it does is, it gives you a little bit more breathing room to rethink your strategy, right? I believe if we are able to find the right synergy between tech and training and aids and make a system out of it which becomes a core value and core competency of the organization, it could be very effective for any education platform to move forward very quickly.
I want to know that what are those technological aids that you are using at your school to make learning effective?
For example, let's talk about, so I was talking about cloud computing as thing. I believe everything is on the cloud. You are a cloud-based media group yourself. So you can totally imagine that you being at home, you receive all the kind of data that you need for work without actually leaving the space that you do. So what at South Wales we worked on was, the model for South Wales was communication and happiness. So these are my two actual favorable core values that I live by. Happiness is indexed through the whole system, where everyone likes the thing, they like associating with South Wales. Second is communication. How much do children know about the school? How much do they know about the certain subjects they're learning? How much do the parents know about the students' progress, ability, what is happening at school? So what we were able to do was to construct certain amount of resources just for children that could be received, could be sent to them at the right time, and they had the right resources to do the project. Like, for example, they were sitting at home, because they do not have any homework at South Wales. So they were sitting at home with their parents. We wanted to send a parent article to the parent to how to deal with a child's brain in their teens, and then suggest activities for them to do at home. So what we were trying to do was, we were trying to de-stress the children and create an online platform where we could send more data to the parents and more resources to the children, which were tailor-made for certain subjects. I cannot in an interview somehow put a picture in your head, but it's just a way where the concepts that are sent to the kids are tailor-made for them. We create our own syllabus. We are on the CBSE platform, but we create our own syllabus so that it is tailor-made for those life skills that the children need for those particular topics. Yeah, so that's how we do it.
I think you and your school is doing an indispensable job in building up the future of children here in Solin and Himachal, of course. So it was such an honor to be with you. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your knowledge and experience with us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.